The desert air was crisp that October evening as thousands of spectators flooded into the T-Mobile Arena. The neon lights of Las Vegas painted the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold, creating a backdrop that seemed almost surreal against the rugged world of professional bull riding. Inside the arena, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Tonight was the final night of the PBR World Finals, and everything was on the line. Travis Monroe adjusted his protective vest one last time, feeling the familiar weight of leather and Kevlar against his chest. At 26, he was in the prime of his career, ranked third in the world standings with just 8 rides separating him from his first world championship. His calloused hands worked methodically as he prepared his rope, each movement precise and practiced from years of dedication to his craft. "You ready for this, Travis?" called out Jake Sullivan, his traveling partner and closest friend on the circuit. Jake had been knocked out of championship contention 3 weeks earlier after a devastating fall in Oklahoma City, but he'd stayed on to support Travis through these final crucial rides. Travis looked up from his rope, his steel-blue eyes reflecting the arena lights. "As ready as I'll ever be. Been dreaming about this moment since I was 8 years old, watching my dad compete in this same arena." The mention of his father brought a momentary shadow across Travis's face. Tom Monroe had been a legendary bull rider in his own right, but his career had ended abruptly when Travis was just 10 years old. A career-ending injury had forced Tom into retirement, and he'd spent the rest of his life working construction to support his family, always wondering what might have been. "Your old man would be proud," Jake said, placing a supportive hand on Travis's shoulder. 3 rides away from the title he never got to chase. The arena buzzed with activity as crew members prepared the bucking chutes. Television cameras captured every angle, broadcasting to millions of viewers around the world. The Professional Bull Riders Organization had grown from humble beginnings to become one of the most watched sports in America, and tonight's finale promised to deliver the drama that kept fans coming back for more. Dr. Sarah Chin, the lead sports medicine physician for the PBR Tour, made her rounds through the locker area, checking on the riders and ensuring all safety protocols were in place. At 34, she was one of the youngest doctors to hold such a position, having earned her spot through years of dedicated work in emergency medicine and sports injury prevention. "Evening, Travis," she said, clipboard in hand. "How are you feeling? Any lingering effects from that wreck in Denver last month?" Travis flexed his left shoulder, still feeling a slight ache from where he'd landed hard against the arena fence. "Nothing I can't handle. Been working with the physical therapist you recommended, and everything feels solid." Dr. Chin nodded, making a note on her chart. "Remember, there's no shame in pulling out if something doesn't feel right. Your long-term health is more important than any championship." "Appreciate the concern, but I've been waiting my whole life for this shot," Travis replied. "I'm not walking away now." The conversation was interrupted by the thunderous roar of the crowd as the opening ceremonies began. Pyrotechnics lit up the arena as the announcer's voice boomed over the sound system, introducing the top 15 riders who would compete for the final championship points of the season. Maria Gonzalez sat in the front row of the media section, her laptop open and fingers flying across the keyboard as she filed her pre-event story for the Las Vegas Sunday. At 29, she had covered every major sporting event in the city, but there was something about bull riding that captivated her more than boxing matches or hockey games. Perhaps it was the raw authenticity of the sport, the way these athletes put everything on the line for 8 seconds of glory. Ladies and gentlemen, from Amarillo, Texas, riding for his first PBR World Championship, Travis Monroe. The announcement sent a surge of adrenaline through Travis's body as he made his way to the arena floor, acknowledging the crowd with a wave of his black cowboy hat. His first bull of the night was Midnight Thunder, a massive black Brahma cross known for his unpredictable spinning pattern. Travis had drawn this bull once before, 3 years ago in Fort Worth, and had managed a score of 87 points. Tonight, he needed at least an 85 to stay in championship contention. Behind the chutes, Travis went through his pre-ride ritual. He pulled on his gloves, adjusting each finger until the fit was perfect. The rosin bag left a chalky residue on his palms, providing the grip that could mean the difference between a successful ride and a dangerous fall. He closed his eyes and visualized the ride, seeing himself staying centered and balanced no matter which direction the bull decided to go. "Riders up," called the chute boss, and Travis climbed over the metal rails, settling onto Midnight Thunder's broad back. The bull shifted beneath him, already agitated by the noise and lights. Travis worked his rope around his gloved hand, creating the tight wrap that would anchor him to the animal for the next 8 seconds. Jake stood beside the chute, offering last-minute encouragement. Stay loose, keep your feet moving, and remember what your dad always told you about finding the bull's rhythm. Travis nodded, his jaw set with determination. The arena fell silent except for the shuffling of hooves and the creaking of metal. This was the moment when everything else faded away, the crowd, the cameras, the pressure of championship aspirations. It was just Travis, the bull, and 8 seconds that would define everything. Outside, Travis called, signaling he was ready. The gate swung open, and midnight thunder exploded into the arena like a thunderbolt. The bull's first jump launched them both high into the air. Travis's free arm extended for balance as he absorbed the impact through his legs and core. Midnight thunder landed hard and immediately spun to the left, his powerful hindquarters kicking skyward as he tried to dislodge his rider. Travis stayed centered, his body moving in rhythm with the bull's motion, reading each twist and turn like a dancer following music only he could hear. 5 seconds in, the bull changed tactics, switching from spins to a series of bone-jarring bucks that tested every muscle in Travis's body. The crowd was on its feet, sensing they were witnessing something special. Even the other riders had stopped their preparations to watch this masterful display of horsemanship. 7 seconds. Travis could feel midnight thunder beginning to tire, the bull's movements becoming slightly more predictable. 1 more second, and he would have his first qualifying ride of the finals. The buzzer sounded, and Travis made his dismount, landing on his feet as the pickup men guided midnight thunder away from the arena floor. The score flashed on the Jumbotron, 89.5 points. The crowd erupted in appreciation for what they had just witnessed. Travis retrieved his hat from the arena dirt, dusting it off as he acknowledged the crowd's appreciation. This was why he rode bulls. For moments like this, when everything came together perfectly, when months of preparation and years of experience culminated in 8 seconds of pure perfection. Back in the locker area, Dr. Chun conducted her post-ride evaluation. "Textbook dismount," she commented. "How do you feel?" "Like I could ride 10 more just like him." Travis grinned, still riding the high of adrenaline and accomplishment. "That's the kind of ride that wins championships." Jake slapped him on the back. 2 more rides like that, and you'll be wearing the gold buckle your dad never got to claim." The mention of his father brought Travis back to earth. Tom Monroe had come so close to a world championship himself, leading the standings going into the final event of 1995 before a separated shoulder in the penultimate round cost him his chance at glory. Travis had grown up hearing stories about that night, about the heartbreak of coming so close to achieving a lifelong dream only to have it slip away due to circumstances beyond his control. "Don't think about the championship yet," Travis told himself as he prepared for his second bull of the night. "Just focus on the next 8 seconds. His second draw was Iron Will, a veteran bull known for his intelligence and cunning. This wasn't a bull that relied on raw power alone. Iron Will was a strategist, waiting for riders to make mistakes before capitalizing with devastating consequences. Travis had never ridden this particular bull, but he'd watched enough video to know what he was facing. The preparation ritual began again, but this time Travis felt a different kind of energy in the arena. Word had spread through the crowd about the championship implications of each ride, and the tension was palpable. Maria Gonzalez found herself leaning forward in her seat, her story forgotten as she became caught up in the drama unfolding before her. "This is what we live for," she said to her photographer colleague. "These moments when everything hangs in the balance." As Travis settled onto Iron Will's back, he could feel the bull's intelligence in the way the animal remained perfectly still, conserving energy for the battle ahead. This was going to be a different kind of ride than his first, requiring a different set of skills and strategies. "You got this, brother," Jake called from beside the chute. "Trust your instincts and ride like the champion you are." Travis nodded, tightening his rope and adjusting his position one final time. The arena light seemed brighter now, the crowd noise more intense. Championship pressure had a way of amplifying everything, making every sensation more acute and every decision more critical. Outside, Travis called, and Iron Will launched into the arena with the calculated power of a seasoned competitor. Unlike Midnight Thunder's explosive start, Iron Will began with a series of controlled bucks, testing Travis's balance and looking for weaknesses in his position. 3 seconds in, Iron Will made his move, dropping his shoulder and spinning hard to the right while simultaneously kicking his back legs high into the air. It was a combination that had unseated dozens of riders, but Travis anticipated the move, shifting his weight and using his free arm to maintain his center of gravity. The bull tried again, this time feinting left before spinning right, but Travis read the deception and stayed with him. 5 seconds. 6 seconds. The crowd sensed they were witnessing another masterful ride, and their appreciation grew with each passing moment. 7 seconds. Iron Will made one last desperate attempt to dislodge his rider, launching into a series of rapid-fire bucks that would have challenged even the most experienced cowboys. Travis stayed centered, his body absorbing each impact, while maintaining the perfect balance between holding on and staying loose enough to move with the bull's motion. The buzzer sounded, and Travis dismounted cleanly, his second successful ride of the night complete. The score appeared on the board, 87 points. Combined with his first ride, Travis now held a commanding lead in the final standings. As he walked back toward the locker area, Travis felt the weight of 20 years of dreams and preparation. His father's legacy, his own sacrifices, and the support of everyone who had believed in him had led to this moment. 2 rides down, 1 to go, and the PBR World Championship would finally be within his grasp. But as any veteran of the sport would tell you, in bull riding, everything can change in an instant. The next 8 seconds would prove just how true that really was. The 45-minute intermission between rounds gave Travis time to process what had just happened and prepare for the final challenge of his championship quest. In the quiet of the locker room, away from the noise and electricity of the arena, he allowed himself a moment to truly comprehend how close he was to achieving his lifelong dream. Jake sat beside him on the wooden bench, both men sharing the comfortable silence that comes from years of friendship and mutual understanding. They had traveled thousands of miles together, shared countless hotel rooms, and supported each other through injuries, victories, and defeats. Tonight felt different, though. Tonight carried the weight of destiny. Remember when we were kids, watching the finals on TV at your house? Jake finally said, breaking the silence. You always said you'd be here someday. Travis smiled at the memory. They had been 12 years old, sprawled on the living room floor of the Monroe family's modest ranch house outside Amarillo. Tom Monroe had just retired from competition due to his injury, and the television broadcasts of the PBR Finals had become both inspiration and painful reminder of what might have been. Dad never missed a broadcast after he retired, Travis replied. Even when it hurt to watch, he said it was important to see what we were working toward. The conversation was interrupted by Dr. Chen's arrival for the standard mid-event medical check. The PBR had implemented strict protocols after several high-profile injuries in previous years, and no rider could compete in the final round without medical clearance. How are you feeling, Travis? She asked, her professional demeanor masking genuine concern for his well-being. Any soreness, dizziness, or unusual sensations? Travis stood and moved through a series of range-of-motion tests, demonstrating that his body was still functioning properly despite the physical demands of his first 2 rides. Everything feels good, document. Better than good, actually. I feel like I could ride all night. Dr. Chen made notes on her tablet, satisfied with his responses and physical condition. Your vital signs are normal, and you show no signs of concussion or significant injury. You're cleared for the final round, but remember what I said earlier about listening to your body. After she left, Travis began his preparation for the most important ride of his career. His final bull was Bone Crusher, a massive gray Brahma cross that had bucked off 23 consecutive riders coming into tonight's event. This was the kind of bull that legends were made of, or careers were ended by. Maria Gonzalez had spent the intermission researching Bone Crusher's history, and the statistics were sobering. In 4 years of professional competition, only 7 riders had successfully completed the 8-second ride on this particular animal. More concerning were the injury reports. Bone Crusher had sent 11 riders to the hospital, including 3 who required surgery for various fractures and torn ligaments. This is the story angle I've been looking for, she murmured to herself as she typed notes into her laptop. David versus Goliath, with a world championship hanging in the balance. Meanwhile, in the arena preparation area, the bull riders who had been eliminated from championship contention gathered to watch the final round. These were Travis's competitors and peers, men who understood better than anyone the magnitude of what he was attempting to accomplish. Bone Crusher's been waiting all season for a moment like this, commented Marcus Rodriguez, a 2-time world champion who had been eliminated earlier in the week. That bull knows when the stakes are highest, and he seems to raise his game accordingly. The comment drew nods of agreement from the other riders. In the strange world of professional bull riding, the animals often seem to sense the importance of particular moments, performing with extra intensity when championships or significant prize money was on the line. Tom Brady, not the football player but a veteran bull rider from Oklahoma, shared his own experience with Bone Crusher from earlier in the season. I lasted maybe 4 seconds before he launched me into orbit. That bull doesn't just try to buck you off, he tries to make a statement. As the intermission wound down, Travis found himself thinking about his father's advice from years earlier. The bulls can sense fear and uncertainty, Tom Monroe had told his son during one of their many practice sessions. But they also respect confidence and determination. When you climb on that bull's back, you need to believe with every fiber of your being that you belong there. The arena lights dimmed as the final round began, and Travis made his way to the bucking chutes for what would be the most important 8 seconds of his life. The crowd had grown even more energetic during the break, word having spread throughout Las Vegas about the championship implications of the evening's final rides. Bone Crusher stood in chute number 4, his massive frame and intimidating presence commanding respect from everyone in the vicinity. The bull's reputation preceded him, and even the most experienced cowboys gave him extra space as they went about their preparations. "That's a lot of bull," Jake observed as they approached the chute area. "But you've got the skill and the heart to ride him. Just remember everything your dad taught you about staying centered and reading the bull's movement." Travis nodded, but his attention was already focused on the task ahead. Bone Crusher was indeed massive, probably weighing close to 1,800 pounds of pure muscle and athleticism. The bull's gray coat was marked with scars from years of competition, evidence of a veteran athlete who had earned his fearsome reputation through countless battles with the best riders in the world. Dr. Chin positioned herself near the chute area, her medical bag and emergency equipment within easy reach. She had seen too many careers ended in moments just like this one, when the combination of championship pressure and dangerous bulls created perfect storms for catastrophic injuries. "Standard protocol," she reminded the safety crew. "If anything goes wrong, we prioritize the rider's safety above everything else. Championships can wait, careers and lives cannot be replaced." The announcement came over the arena's public address system. "Ladies and gentlemen, in chute number 4, riding for the PBR World Championship, Travis Monroe on Bone Crusher." The crowd erupted in appreciation and anticipation. This was the moment they had paid to see, the culmination of months of competition and years of dreams. In the VIP section, several former world champions watched with the understanding that comes only from having stood in Travis's position themselves. "This is what separates the champions from everyone else," observed Chris Shivers, the 2003 world champion. "The ability to perform under ultimate pressure when everything is on the line." Travis climbed over the chute rails and settled onto Bone Crusher's broad back. The bull immediately tensed, sensing the weight and presence of his rider. This was the moment when everything became real, when months of preparation and a lifetime of dreams came down to the next few minutes of preparation and 8 seconds of execution. The rope felt different in his hands as he began the wrapping process. Whether it was the pressure of the moment or the magnitude of what lay ahead, Travis found himself taking extra time with each step of his preparation ritual. Jake stood beside the chute, offering quiet encouragement and assistance with the rope placement. "Take your time," Jake advised. "There's no clock on preparation. Get everything exactly the way you want it." Travis nodded, working the rope around his gloved hand with the precision of a surgeon. Each wrap had to be perfect, tight enough to provide security, but not so tight as to trap his hand if something went wrong. In bull riding, the margin for error was measured in fractions of inches and split seconds. Bone Crusher shifted beneath him, and Travis could feel the bull's power even in this moment of relative calm. This was an animal that had dominated the sport for years, an adversary that demanded every ounce of skill and courage Travis had developed over his career. "Remember what your dad always said about finding the bull's rhythm," Jake reminded him. "Every bull has a pattern, even the great ones. Find it and ride it." Travis closed his eyes and took a deep breath, centering himself for what was to come. In his mind, he could hear his father's voice offering the same advice he had given thousands of times during their practice sessions on the family ranch. "Stay loose, keep your feet moving, and never stop believing you can ride any bull that ever lived." The arena fell silent except for the shuffling of hooves and the creaking of metal chute gates. This was the moment of truth, when years of preparation and a lifetime of dreams would be decided in the next 8 seconds. Travis opened his eyes, gripped his rope firmly, and nodded to the gate man. Outside. But as the chute gate swung open and Bone Crusher exploded into the arena, neither Travis nor anyone else in the T-Mobile Arena could have predicted what was about to unfold. The next 8 seconds would indeed change everything, but not in the way anyone expected. The first few seconds went according to plan. Bone Crusher launched out of the chute with the explosive power that had made him legendary, his massive frame twisting and bucking with the controlled violence that separated great bulls from merely good ones. Travis absorbed the initial impact through his legs and core. His free arm extended for balance as he settled into the rhythm of the ride. 3 seconds in, Bone Crusher executed his signature move, a sudden drop and spin to the left that had unseated dozens of riders. But Travis had studied video of this exact maneuver, and he was ready for it. He shifted his weight and used his legs to maintain his position, staying centered despite the bull's best efforts to dislodge him. The crowd was on its feet, sensing they were witnessing something special. This was championship-level riding, the kind of performance that would be remembered for years to come. Maria Gonzalez found herself holding her breath as she watched the drama unfold before her. 5 seconds. Travis was still in perfect position, his body moving in harmony with Bone Crusher's powerful motion. The bull tried a series of rapid-fire bucks, each one designed to break the rider's rhythm and concentration, but Travis anticipated each move and countered accordingly. Dr. Chen watched from her position near the arena fence, her trained eye evaluating every aspect of the ride. From a medical standpoint, everything looked textbook perfect. Travis was in control, the bull was performing predictably, and the safety crew was in position to assist with the dismount when the buzzer sounded. 6 seconds. The championship was now within Travis's grasp. One more successful second would complete the ride and virtually guarantee him the world title he had dreamed of since childhood. The arena noise reached a crescendo as fans realized they were witnessing history in the making. 7 seconds. Bone Crusher made one final attempt to unseat his rider, launching into a spinning jump that combined every element of his considerable athletic ability. But Travis stayed with him, his years of experience and natural ability allowing him to counter each of the bull's moves. The buzzer was just beginning to sound when everything went wrong. The accident happened so quickly that most spectators didn't immediately understand what they had witnessed. As the 8-second buzzer began to sound, Travis prepared for his dismount, exactly as he had done thousands of times before throughout his career. But Bone Crusher, in a move that defied his usual patterns, suddenly changed direction at the exact moment Travis was leaving his back. Instead of the clean dismount that everyone expected, Travis found himself off balance and falling toward the bull's massive frame. Bone Crusher, still in full bucking mode and unaware that the ride was complete, continued his violent motion, his powerful hindquarters swinging upward just as Travis fell. The impact sent Travis tumbling to the arena floor directly beneath the bull's hooves. What happened next would be replayed in the minds of everyone present for the rest of their lives, though the television cameras would never show the footage again. Bone Crusher's front hooves came down with the full force of his 1,800-pound frame, striking Travis in the torso and head. The sickening sound of the impact carried even over the arena noise, causing a collective gasp from the crowd that quickly turned to horrified silence. But the nightmare wasn't over. Bone Crusher, still agitated and confused by the situation, reared up and came down again, his hooves finding Travis's motionless form a second time. The arena fell completely silent except for the sound of the bull's hooves against the dirt and the frantic shouts of the safety crew rushing to intervene. Dr. Chen was moving before the second impact occurred, her medical training overriding the shock and horror of what she was witnessing. She had seen serious injuries before, but nothing in her career had prepared her for the severity of what was unfolding in front of her. "Get that bull out of here now," she shouted to the pickup men, who were already working to guide Bone Crusher away from the fallen rider. The arena crew moved with practiced efficiency, but the seconds felt like hours to everyone watching. Jake vaulted over the arena fence without hesitation, his own safety forgotten in his desperate need to reach his best friend. The sight that greeted him when he reached Travis's side would haunt him for the rest of his life. Travis lay motionless on the arena dirt, his body twisted at unnatural angles, blood seeping from multiple wounds. Travis, can you hear me?" Jake's voice cracked with emotion as he knelt beside his friend, fighting every instinct to move him, or try to help. His experience in the sport had taught him that spinal injuries were always a possibility, and any movement could make things worse. Dr. Chen arrived seconds later, immediately taking control of the situation with the calm authority that came from years of emergency medicine training. Her hands moved quickly but carefully as she began her assessment, checking for signs of life and evaluating the extent of Travis's injuries. "I need complete silence in this arena," she called out, her voice carrying clearly in the shocked hush that had fallen over the crowd. "Get the medical team down here now, and have the ambulance ready for immediate transport." The T-Mobile Arena had suddenly transformed from a place of celebration and competition into a trauma center. The bright lights that had illuminated Travis's championship quest now cast harsh shadows as medical personnel rushed to save his life. Maria Gonzalez sat frozen in her seat, her laptop forgotten as she watched the medical drama unfold below. This wasn't the story she had come to write, but her journalistic instincts told her she was witnessing something that would change the sport forever. She made the decision that would define her career. She closed her laptop and put away her camera, choosing to preserve Travis's dignity rather than sensationalize his tragedy. In the bucking chutes, the remaining riders watched in stunned silence. These were men who faced danger every time they climbed on a bull's back, but what they had just witnessed was beyond the normal risks of their sport. The randomness and severity of the accident reminded everyone present that their chosen profession carried consequences that extended far beyond 8-second rides and championship buckles. "How bad is it?" Marcus Rodriguez asked Jake when he returned from the arena floor, his face pale and his hands shaking. Jake couldn't find the words to respond. He had seen his best friend lying broken and motionless on the arena dirt, and the image was burned into his memory forever. The championship that had seemed so important just minutes earlier now felt trivial in comparison to Travis's fight for survival. Dr. Chun worked with swift precision, her years of training taking over as she stabilized Travis for transport to the hospital. The arena's medical facilities were sophisticated, but Travis's injuries required the resources of a Level 1 trauma center. University Medical Center, Las Vegas's premier trauma facility, was already being alerted to prepare for their arrival. "We're looking at multiple trauma," Dr. Chen spoke quietly into her radio, updating the hospital on Travis's condition. "Possible spinal cord injury, definite head trauma, internal bleeding likely. ETA 10 minutes. The arena's public address announcer, a veteran of thousands of sporting events, struggled to find words appropriate for the situation. "Ladies and gentlemen, rider Travis Monroe has been injured and is receiving medical attention. Please keep him in your thoughts and prayers as he is transported to the hospital." The crowd responded with the kind of respectful silence typically reserved for the most solemn occasions. These were fans who understood the risks their favorite athletes took every time they competed, but witnessing the reality of those risks was a sobering experience that transcended the usual boundaries between spectators and participants. As the medical team prepared Travis for transport, Jake made the phone call he had been dreading. Tom Monroe answered on the first ring, his voice filled with the excitement of a father watching his son compete for a world championship. "Jake, how did he do? Did he make the 8?" The silence on the other end of the line told Tom everything he needed to know. In the span of a few seconds, his joy turned to terror as Jake explained what had happened. The world championship that had seemed so close was now irrelevant compared to his son's fight for survival. "I'm driving to Las Vegas tonight," Tom said, his voice steady despite the devastation he was feeling. "Take care of him until I get there." Dr. Chen supervised Travis's transfer to the ambulance, her experienced hands ensuring that every precaution was taken to prevent further injury during transport. She had called ahead to University Medical Center, and she knew that the trauma team's most skilled surgeons would be waiting when they arrived. The ambulance pulled away from the T-Mobile Arena with its lights flashing and sirens wailing, carrying Travis Monroe toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the arena sat in stunned silence, the bright lights and festive atmosphere now seeming obscene in the face of what had just occurred. The PBR officials made the difficult decision to cancel the remainder of the event. Championships and standings suddenly seemed insignificant when measured against a young man's fight for survival. The bulls were returned to their pens, the riders gathered their equipment, and the arena slowly emptied as everyone tried to process what they had witnessed. Jake rode in the ambulance with Travis, holding his friend's hand and talking to him constantly despite the doctor's warnings that Travis might not be able to hear him. "Stay with me, brother," he whispered. "Your dad's on his way, and we're going to get through this together." Dr. Chen monitored Travis's vital signs during the transport, making constant adjustments to his care as his condition fluctuated. She had seen many serious injuries during her career, but something about this case affected her more deeply than usual. Perhaps it was the proximity to triumph that made the tragedy more poignant, or maybe it was the young man's obvious dedication to his sport and his dreams. At University Medical Center, the trauma team was already assembled and waiting. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, the head of neurosurgery, had been briefed on Travis's condition and was prepared for the worst. The next few hours would determine whether Travis Monroe would survive, and if he did, what kind of life he might be able to live. As Travis was rushed into the trauma bay, Jake found himself alone in the waiting room for the first time since the accident. The adrenaline that had carried him through the immediate crisis was beginning to wear off, and the full impact of what had happened was starting to sink in. His best friend, the man who had been 8 seconds away from achieving his lifelong dream, was now fighting for his life because of a freak accident that no one could have predicted or prevented. The randomness of it all seemed cruel and unfair, a reminder that life could change instantly and without warning. The waiting began, and with it came the questions that would haunt everyone involved for years to come. What if Travis had dismounted a split second earlier or later? What if Bone Crusher had moved differently? What if the safety crew had been positioned slightly differently? But in the sterile corridors of University Medical Center, those questions didn't matter. All that mattered now was whether the talented young man from Amarillo, Texas, would survive to see another day, and if he did, whether he would ever be the same again. The championship buckle that had seemed so important just hours earlier now sat forgotten in Travis's gear bag, a golden reminder of dreams that might never be fulfilled and a future that remained terrifyingly uncertain. 6 weeks after the accident, Travis Monroe opened his eyes in the intensive care unit of University Medical Center. The first thing he noticed was the silence. No roaring crowds, no arena noise, just the quiet beeping of monitors and the soft whisper of ventilation equipment. The second thing he noticed was that he couldn't feel his legs. Dr. Rodriguez had been checking on Travis every few hours since he first showed signs of consciousness 3 days earlier. The brain trauma had been severe, but the young man's physical conditioning and will to survive had helped him through the most critical phase of his recovery. The spinal cord injury, however, presented a different and more permanent challenge. "Welcome back, Travis," Dr. Rodriguez said softly, adjusting the lighting in the room to make it more comfortable for his patient's sensitive eyes. "You've been asleep for quite a while." Travis tried to speak, but found his throat raw and painful from weeks of intubation. Dr. Rodriguez offered him small sips of water and waited patiently as Travis gathered his strength to form words. "How long?" Travis finally managed to whisper. 6 weeks, Dr. Rodriguez replied. "You've been in a medically induced coma while we addressed the swelling in your brain and stabilized your other injuries." The next question came even quieter. "My legs?" Dr. Rodriguez had delivered this kind of news hundreds of times during his career, but it never became easier. "Travis, I need to be direct with you about your injuries. The impact damaged your spinal cord at the T12 level. You have what we call a complete spinal cord injury, which means there's currently no sensation or voluntary movement below that point." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Travis stared at the ceiling, processing information that would have broken many people completely. His dreams of championship buckles and 8-second rides had ended in the span of a few heartbeats, replaced by a reality he had never imagined possible. "Currently?" Travis asked, focusing on the one word that offered any hope. "Spinal cord injuries are complex," Dr. Rodriguez explained carefully. "In the first year after injury, there can sometimes be some recovery of function, especially in incomplete injuries. However, after 6 weeks, the likelihood of significant improvement in a complete injury like yours is very small." Jake had been sleeping in the waiting room chair for 6 weeks, leaving only when hospital staff insisted he go home to shower and change clothes. When the nurses told him Travis was awake and asking for him, Jake ran down the hallway despite the no-running policy he had been reminded about countless times. "Brother," Jake said, his voice thick with emotion as he entered Travis's room. "It's good to see those blue eyes open again." Travis looked at his best friend and saw the toll the past 6 weeks had taken. Jake had lost weight, his usually neat appearance replaced by the rumpled look of someone who had been living in hospital waiting rooms. "You look terrible," Travis said, managing a weak smile. "You don't look so great yourself," Jake replied, grateful for any sign that his friend's personality had survived the trauma. "But you're alive, and that's what matters." Tom Monroe had driven through the night from Amarillo when he first got Jake's call, and he had barely left the hospital since. Seeing his son awake and talking was both the best and worst moment of his life. Best because Travis had survived, worst because he knew what the future held for a cowboy who could no longer ride. "Dad," Travis said when Tom entered the room. "I'm sorry." "Sorry for what?" Tom asked, fighting back tears. "For not winning it. For not getting you that championship." Tom Monroe sat beside his son's bed and took his hand. "Son, you've got nothing to be sorry for. You rode that bull perfectly for 7.5 seconds. What happened after that wasn't your fault, and it doesn't change the fact that I'm proud of you." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Chun, who had been checking on Travis daily since the accident. As the PBR's chief medical officer, she had seen many career-ending injuries, but Travis's case had affected her more than most. "How are you feeling, Travis?" she asked, reviewing his chart and checking his responses. "Like I got stepped on by an 1,800-pound bull," Travis replied, his sense of humor intact despite everything. Dr. Chin smiled at his response, encouraged by his mental state. "Your cognitive function appears to be excellent, which is remarkable given the severity of your brain trauma. You're going to have a long road of rehabilitation ahead, but your attitude will be crucial to your recovery." Over the following days, Travis began to understand the full scope of his situation. Physical therapists explained what life in a wheelchair would entail, occupational therapists worked with him on basic daily activities, and psychologists helped him process the dramatic change in his circumstances. Maria Gonzalez had written extensively about Travis's accident and recovery, but she had done so with a focus on inspiration rather than sensationalism. Her articles had helped rally support from the bull riding community and beyond, resulting in fundraising efforts that would help cover Travis's massive medical expenses. "There's been an incredible outpouring of support," she told Travis during one of her visits. "Cowboys from all over the country have donated money and time to help with your recovery. The PBR has also established a foundation in your name to help other injured riders." Travis was moved by the support, but he was also struggling with depression and a sense of lost identity. For 26 years, he had been a bull rider first and everything else second. Now he had to figure out who he was without that central defining characteristic. The breakthrough came during a visit from Marcus Rodriguez, the two-time world champion who had been one of Travis's rivals and friends on the circuit. Marcus had brought something with him that would change Travis's perspective forever. "I want to show you something," Marcus said, setting up a laptop computer on Travis's bedside table. "There's a guy in Australia named Brad Geard. He was paralyzed in a car accident, but watch this." The video showed Brad racing a specially modified race car, his hands controlling both steering and acceleration through hand controls. He was competing against able-bodied drivers and winning. "Racing?" Travis asked, intrigued despite himself. "Not just racing," Marcus explained. "There's a whole world of adaptive sports. Wheelchair basketball, hand cycling, racing, even rodeo events. Your competitive days aren't over, brother. They're just going to look different." That conversation marked the beginning of Travis's psychological recovery. He began to see his situation not as an ending but as a new beginning, a chance to redefine what was possible for someone with his condition. Dr. Rodriguez was amazed by Travis's physical progress. His upper body strength, already impressive from years of bull riding, adapted quickly to the demands of wheelchair mobility. His balance and coordination, developed through decades of athletic training, translated well to his new circumstances. "You're one of the most determined patients I've ever worked with," Dr. Rodriguez told him. "Your athletic background is serving you well in rehabilitation." After 3 months in the hospital, Travis was finally ready to go home. The Monroe family ranch had been modified with ramps and other accessibility features, funded by donations from the bull riding community and Travis's growing fan base. The homecoming was emotional for everyone involved. Travis hadn't seen the ranch since before the accident, and returning as a wheelchair user to the place where he had learned to ride bulls was both comforting and heartbreaking. "We'll figure this out together," Tom Monroe told his son as they sat on the porch, looking out at the pastures where Travis had spent countless hours perfecting his riding skills. This ranch has always been about more than just bull riding. Jake had made the decision to retire from competition to help Travis with his transition. Despite Travis's protests that his friend shouldn't sacrifice his own career, Jake was determined to be there for the man who had been like a brother to him for most of their lives. "There are more important things than 8-second rides," Jake said simply. "Besides, I've got an idea for a business that could use both of our skills." The idea Jake had been developing was a training facility for young bull riders, with an emphasis on safety and injury prevention. Travis's accident had highlighted the need for better education about the risks of the sport and techniques for minimizing those risks. "We could teach them what we learned the hard way," Jake explained. "How to read bulls, how to prepare mentally and physically, and most importantly, how to fall safely when things go wrong." Travis was initially skeptical about getting involved in anything related to bull riding, but the more he thought about it, the more the idea appealed to him. He could share his knowledge and experience while potentially preventing other young riders from experiencing what he had gone through. Dr. Chen visited Travis at the ranch 6 months after his accident, conducting a follow-up evaluation and checking on his psychological adjustment. She was impressed by what she found. "You seem to be adapting remarkably well," she observed. "Many people in your situation struggle with depression and identity issues for years." "I won't lie and say it's been easy," Travis replied. "But I've had incredible support, and I've found new purposes. I may not be able to ride bulls anymore, but I can help other people learn to do it more safely." The training facility became a reality 18 months after the accident. The Monroe Training Center specialized in teaching young bull riders the mental and physical skills necessary for success and safety in professional competition. Travis's story and expertise attracted students from across the country. "The irony isn't lost on me," Travis told a documentary crew that came to film the facility. "I'm teaching people to do the thing that nearly killed me. But if I can help even one rider avoid a serious injury, then everything I went through will have been worth it." Maria Gonzalez continued to follow Travis's story, documenting his journey from accident victim to successful businessman and safety advocate. Her articles helped change the public perception of spinal cord injury from tragedy to triumph over adversity. Travis Monroe didn't let his accident define him. She wrote in what became her most famous article. Instead, he redefined what it means to be a champion. His real victory wasn't in the 8 seconds he stayed on Bone Crusher's back. It was in the courage he showed in the years that followed. 3 years after the accident, Travis received an invitation that would have seemed impossible during those dark early days in the hospital. The PBR wanted to induct him into their Hall of Fame, not just for his riding accomplishments, but for his contributions to rider safety and his example of perseverance in the face of adversity. "I never got to wear the gold buckle I dreamed about as a kid," Travis said in his acceptance speech. "But I've learned that there are different kinds of championships, and sometimes the most important victories happen outside the arena." The speech was interrupted by a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. In the audience, Jake wiped away tears as he watched his best friend receive the recognition he deserved. Tom Monroe sat in the front row, prouder of his son than he had ever been during Travis's competing days. Dr. Rodriguez attended the ceremony, marveling at the transformation of the broken young man he had first met in the trauma center. "Travis Monroe represents the absolute best of the human spirit," he told the gathering. "His recovery has been as impressive as any medical miracle I've witnessed in my career." If this story has moved you, subscribe to the channel and leave your like so you don't miss any of our stories. As Travis wheeled across the stage to accept his Hall of Fame plaque, he thought about the unpredictable nature of life and the importance of finding meaning in whatever circumstances we face. His 8-second ride on Bone Crusher had ended in tragedy, but the life he had built in the aftermath had become something far more valuable than any championship buckle. The accident that changed everything had ultimately led to a deeper understanding of what it means to be truly successful. Travis Monroe had learned that champions aren't defined by their victories alone, but by how they respond when life delivers its most devastating defeats. In that sense, he had become the greatest champion of all.